The new transfer student, Isabella, lost a game and had to take the truth or dare challenge. Her dare was to find someone right there and start a one-year romantic relationship. Isabella chose Marcel, my childhood friend. Marcel crossed one leg over the other and said casually, "Sure, let's date. It's just a game." The crowd immediately erupted. Romance as a dare? It's like playing house. Even if it's just a game, a love story should look like love. Start with a kiss. 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 A French kiss. I said nothing. I just looked down at my phone, where a new message popped up. I did last year's college entrance exam paper, total score 550. Cletus, I'm catching up to you. You'd better be ready to pay your bet. Chapter 1. I was furious. Cletus, that was the nickname I used to go by when I stayed with my grandma. Something from childhood. Only he would dare tease me like that. I angrily hung up the phone. When I looked up again, Isabella was already sitting astride Marcel's lap, one hand hooked around his shoulders, the other resting around his waist. Their kiss was practiced, fluent, and intimate. I froze completely, as the crowd's cheers blurred into a distant buzz. My fingertips turned cold. My heart felt as though an invisible hand was crushing it. Just before the start of senior year, we had sat at the top of the Ferris wheel. He had held my hand tightly and confessed, "Serafina, you know I've always liked you. On my 18th birthday, will you be my girlfriend?" His birthday was at the end of the semester. I had been waiting for that day with all my heart. But then Isabella transferred to our school, and my anticipation drained away. Like sand through an hourglass. Isabella was strikingly beautiful, her manner bold and unrestrained, carrying a touch of sophistication rare among high school students. Everyone was fascinated by her, a girl from the capital city coming to our second-tier town. She was wrapped in mystery. When she stood on the podium to introduce herself, Marcel's eyes glimmered as he stared at her. That was the first time I sensed something slipping away. It had only been a month since school started, yet they were already inseparable. He'd always been the kind of boy who waited for others to fetch things for him, never lifting a finger. But when Isabella casually mentioned she wanted ice cream, he went downstairs immediately to buy it. He no longer walked home with me after school. He was nowhere to be found on weekends. Occasionally, I'd see Isabella's updates on her WeChat feed. "Thanks to Marcel for cleaning up for me. Thanks for showing me around East City's attractions." The irony burned. On cleaning duty days, Marcel would sit like a king, gaming, while everyone else worked. One rainy day, Isabella happened to have her period. Marcel and his driver took her home. There was still space in the car, yet he didn't offer me a seat. And now, that hourglass shattered completely. Time stood still. The vibration of my phone snapped me back. I glanced down weakly. Calling Cletus! Calling Cletus! When I didn't reply, the phone started ringing. Chapter 2. When Marcel and Isabella finally pulled apart, the onlooking classmates erupted with excitement. "Damn! Look at that saliva string! You two are killing it! Holy shit! You actually kissed for real?" If I'd known dares could get that wild, I wouldn't have sung just now. I'd have picked the romance dare too. Isabella really knows how to play, turning a dare into a love game, so freaking thrilling. But wait. Young Master Marcel's always glued to Serafina. How do we know if he's really dating Isabella or not? Let's make a group chat. They'll check in every day and report what they do together, dates, activities, everything. My phone buzzed nonstop from incoming calls. I slung my backpack over my shoulder and hurried out amid their laughter and noise. Inside, awkward chatter lingered. I think it's the first time I've seen that icy face of hers crack. She looked ready to lose it. Think she's jealous? Who wouldn't be? Her childhood friend's dating someone else. Of course she'll find a corner to cry in. Isabella sounded surprised. Seriously? It's just a game. Can't she take a joke? Marcel chuckled. Serafina's not petty. If she gets jealous, I'll just coax her. A round of teasing oaths followed. Standing at the club's entrance, I finally answered the call. A low, lazy voice came through. Cletus. Instantly, the suffocating weight in my chest vanished, only to be replaced by pure anger. I snapped, keeping my tone low but sharp. Buck, call me that one more time and I'll block you. He switched to a mock whiny tone. Okay, I'm sorry. Serafina, Don't block me. Did you see my score? I've still got almost a year. I'll definitely raise it. Can you tell me in advance which university you want to apply to? I mentally calculated my current marks. I wasn't completely sure yet. So I teased. Tell you what, get 600 on your next mock exam. And I'll tell you then. His voice grew serious. I will. Just wait. Then he asked, what are you doing now? I glanced down the hallway of the club, playing a love game. Silence. For a moment. I thought he'd hung up. Then his lazy tone returned. TCH. Love is love. A game is a game. What the hell is a love game? I couldn't help but smile bitterly. That's just how they play here. Right then, Marcel walked out of the private room. Marcel's here. I said, talk later. His lips were still damp. His lower lip slightly bitten. His eyes looked relaxed. Satisfied, like he was in a damn good mood. Marcel stopped in front of me, raised his hand to ruffle my hair, and leaned down with a side glance. Upset? It was just a dare, he said. She called me out in front of everyone. I couldn't back down. A real man never chickens out. Otherwise, how could I deserve my Serafina, right? Don't worry. Our plan's still the same. On my birthday, you'll be my official girlfriend. We'll go to East City University together. Then travel. I pushed his hand away. A teasing female voice came from behind him. Cutie, what are you doing? Isabella appeared, standing right next to him, hugging his arm pressed tight against her chest. She flashed a bright smile. Serafina, I lost the game. I'm just borrowing your boy for a year. You don't mind, do you? Yesterday, on the basketball court, he had teased me with a milk tea in his hand. Call me cutie and I'll let you have a sip. I kept my voice even. I don't mind. If someone could be taken away that easily. Getting jealous would only make me look pathetic. Isabella said cheerfully. We're off to our first date now. Marcel couldn't hide his grin as he turned to explain. They want us to post daily couple updates in the group chat. I called the driver to take you home. Message me when you get there. He affectionately ruffled my hair again. Be good. And don't tell my parents. Then the two of them left, sweetly. Hand in hand, a new message from Buck popped up. I have a secret. I'll tell you in person after the college entrance exam. Chapter 3. For the entire weekend, Marcel left early and came home late. When he returned late at night, he would still make a point to explain. We're just talking. That's all. Just checking in for the dare. On Sunday evening, Marcel's mother came back from a business trip and invited me over for dinner. Her face was expressionless. Her tone cold. Marcel's been out all the time lately, and his grades dropped in the monthly exam. Haven't you been supervising his studies? I straightened my back instinctively, then forced myself to answer. This month's test was a bit difficult. She suddenly stopped eating, slowly wiped her hands with a napkin, and without looking at me, said, You've done very well all these years. He listens to you, stays out of trouble, and his grades are decent. I've always thought highly of you. But lately, he seems to be getting out of control. If you can't guide him anymore, you might as well stop being his study companion. I am Marcel's study companion, only he doesn't know that. I used to study at my grandma's place, only coming back to East City during winter and summer breaks to live with my parents. But Marcel seemed to really like me. Every time I came back, he'd cling to me like glue. Serafina, let's go to the amusement park. Serafina, I want to do homework with you. When the break ended and I had to return to grandma's for school, he cried and begged his mother. Mom, I want to transfer to Serafina's school. I don't want to be away from her. Marcel's mother didn't take it seriously until 6th grade, when Marcel skipped school and secretly bought a train ticket to find me at grandma's. Both families were exasperated. Someone joked, might as well set them up as a future couple, engaged now, married after college. But that same year, my father's factory caught fire. While my parents were helping evacuate workers, they didn't make it out in time. The fire took both of them, and my grandmother, devastated by losing her only daughter, passed soon after. The relatives who once smiled kindly turned cold overnight. The company shares became prey for greed. They took everything of value they could. It was Marcel's mother who stepped in, hired a lawyer, and helped me keep what was left. A single house. right next to the Yu family's home. And just like that, I became an orphan with nothing but a roof to my name. Then she handed me a written agreement. Serafina is to supervise Marcel's studies until the college entrance exam, in repayment for the sponsorship of her education. So I transferred from my small rural school to East City. I became Marcel's study companion, tasked with keeping his grades on track. And in everyone else's eyes, I became Marcel's little follower. Those years without my parents were the hardest of my life. Marcel was the one who stayed by my side. For him, I felt gratitude and affection. But now, what remains is just the weight of years spent together. I'll stay by him until the college entrance exam is over. That night, Marcel came home and brought me a milk tea. I said, "Your mom asked why your grades are slipping." He raised an eyebrow. "You didn't rat me out, did you?" "I didn't," I replied. "I told her I've been tutoring you." He laughed. "I barely have time to study. I've got to post couple updates every day. Also, starting tomorrow, I'll be picking Isabella up and dropping her off at school. You'd better be careful on your bike." Right after Marcel left, Isabella messaged me. It was a photo, her kissing him, saliva glistening between their lips. "Desk mate, I'm training your cutie for you. You can just sit back and enjoy later." And suddenly, that taut string in my heart snapped. Strangely enough, it felt a little lighter. Chapter 4. The next morning, as soon as I walked into the classroom, I noticed Isabella had added me to a group chat. "Isabella, desk mate. Don't get the wrong idea. I added you here so you can supervise our love game check-ins. Isabella, day 2 of our romance, cutie woke me up, picked me up for school, and bought my favorite custard buns." Messages flooded in from the others. "So sweet! So sweet! So romantic. I'm jealous. I want a tall, rich, handsome guy to play a love game with me too." I bit into the custard bun in my hand and suddenly remembered the second day she transferred here, when I had brought her warm custard buns. She had hugged me excitedly, saying, "Thanks, desk mate. You're so nice." But later, I saw her toss those buns straight into the trash bin in the girls' restroom. Trash. That milky smell on her is disgusting. Someone passing by my desk suddenly snickered. "Serafina, are you trying to imitate Isabella by eating custard buns now?" Custard buns and milk had always been my breakfast, an old habit from Grandma's house. Marcel was never a morning person. He always woke up late. Every day was a rush. He'd eat breakfast in the car. And by the time we reached school, it was straight into morning reading. So no one had ever noticed my breakfast before. I said softly, "No." But of course, no one listened. Just before class started, Marcel and Isabella strolled in. As soon as Isabella sat down, she tossed 2 custard buns onto my desk with a bright smile. "Your breakfast." "Thanks," I said calmly, and tucked them into my drawer. Isabella tilted her head with mock admiration. "Wow, desk mate. You're amazing. You can eat 2 custard buns at once." I could feel the hostility radiating off her. It had been there since the first day she transferred. From the moment she sat beside me, from that very first glance. A girl's intuition is never wrong, you can always see it in the eyes. The smile that doesn't reach the eyes. Those custard buns had been a gesture of kindness. Pity they ended up wasted in the trash. Her lips curved into a pleased smile. "Don't be upset," she said sweetly. "This game only lasts a year. Cutie still likes you the most." I lowered my head and continued working through my exercises. "Upset? Who said I was upset?" The bell rang for class. Suddenly, Isabella leaned close, her voice low enough for only me to hear, laced with a taunting sneer. "TSK, his kissing skills in the car are so good. Have you ever had a taste?" I froze, staring at her in disbelief, and the next second, she raised her voice, sounding hurt and fragile. "Serafina, don't glare at me like that. I know you're upset, but it's just a game. I'm only keeping my word. I didn't mean anything by it." Instantly, whispers slithered through the classroom like venomous snakes. "They're just childhood friends. Why is she so possessive over a game?" "Yeah, Marcel's not hers. Why act like he is?" "She's pretending to be so pure, but she's just jealous. Honestly, she's more like the other woman, knowing she's the side one but still acting innocent, so shameless." I gripped my pen so tightly that my nails dug into my palm. That kind of quiet, unspeakable hostility, if you defend yourself. It only makes you look guiltier. Isabella turned around and called out to the back. Young Master Marcel, what do you say? Marcel's voice was edged with irritation. We're dating. I like being with you. I'm not anyone's property. I said nothing. I just kept my head down and continued studying, as if I hadn't heard a thing. Chapter 5. From that day on, I kept a certain distance from Marcel. Soon after, he removed me from the group chat. Every week, Isabella would post a 9-photo collage on her WeChat moments right on schedule. One showed them kissing on the Ferris wheel, captioned, "Cutie says this is a required course in love." I buried myself in my studies, too lazy to pay her any attention. When the midterm results came out, I ranked first in the entire grade. I had always been in the top 10 before, but never number 1. While the teachers praised me, they also publicly scolded Marcel, who was ranked 10th from the bottom, and Isabella, who shared a similar fate. The ones who used to gush over their sweet love suddenly went silent. After class, Marcel comforted a teary-eyed Isabella. It's fine, from now on, Serafina will tutor us. I was drinking water then, and promptly choked. Forget it, helping them study could count as review for me anyway. After school, Isabella said she was in a bad mood, so Marcel took her out to relax. Meanwhile, I stayed home, finishing one test paper after another, feeling both calm and satisfied. On Monday, during the flag-raising ceremony, I was invited on stage to share study tips. From below, Marcel looked up at me, pride written all over his face. I glanced past him as though I hadn't seen it. That evening, Marcel's mother came home and noticed her son wasn't there. At the dinner table, I received a message from Isabella, a photo of her and Marcel kissing again at the top of the Ferris wheel. At the same time, Marcel's mother was reviewing the report sent by our homeroom teacher. Her expression darkened, fury simmering in her voice. Your grades are at opposite extremes. The longer you stay here, the more out of control he gets. Maybe you should transfer schools. Transferring meant adapting to a new environment, and going back to Grandma's town would make me happiest. But the teachers here in East City were far better. The chances of getting into a top university in the capital were much higher. I didn't really want to leave. With the college entrance exam approaching, stability was everything. Just then, Marcel came home with Isabella. When he saw his mother, he said calmly, I went out to study with a classmate. It got late, so I brought her home. Marcel's mother's gaze moved slowly between Isabella and me. Marcel's eyes flickered uneasily when they met mine. Isabella, however, smiled gracefully and greeted her. Good evening, Auntie. I hope we're not disturbing you at this hour? When Marcel's mother learned that Isabella had transferred from a top school in the capital, her tone softened for the first time. She smiled. It's fine for classmates to hang out, but studies must come first. Marcel reassured her. Don't worry, Mom. Serafina will tutor us. Isabella chimed in sweetly. Yes, my desk mate is amazing. They were all enthusiasm and obedience in front of her. But in reality, Marcel just wanted me around for show, sitting behind them while they played at being a couple. Marcel had his arm around Isabella's waist as he won her a plush toy, then gently wiped the smudge of ice cream off her lips. Isabella lowered her head shyly. Cutie, you're the best. All I wanted was to go home and finish my homework. In the end, Marcel sighed and said, Fine, let's study. Isabella gave a fake smile and replied, Sure, then quickly picked up her phone to snap a photo of the three of us in the milk tea shop, studying together. Chapter 6. After a full month, the new round of exams came out. Both Marcel and Isabella's grades had improved. But behind my back, the whispers only grew louder. The looks people gave me were no longer curious, they were filled with disdain. In a bathroom stall, I overheard a few girls fuming. It's been a month, and Serafina still shows up in Isabella's love game photos, always sitting next to young Master Marcel, leaning in so close her chest's practically touching his arm. Does she seriously not realize she's just the third wheel? That cold face every day, she thinks she's some kind of ice princess. But really, she's just a simp for young Master Marcel. Isabella, aren't you mad? Isabella's voice floated in, light and calm. Why would I be angry? They grew up together, their bond runs deep. Someone snorted. If it weren't for the way Marcel looks at you, Like he's melting. I'd almost believe that. You might think it's just a game, but Marcel's taking it seriously. He's definitely in love with you, just doesn't realize it yet. Serafina's just a homewrecker. She knows she's the third wheel and still plays innocent. What a slut. I opened the stall door and walked out. Their voices cut off instantly. I ignored them, went straight to the sink, and washed my hands. The silence behind me felt like a curtain dropping. During PE class, I sat alone on the bleachers, watching the boys play basketball. No one dared sit near me. Then Isabella appeared, holding a bottle of cold water, and sat down right beside me. We watched the game in silence for a while. Then she spoke. Feels good, doesn't it? Being liked by a guy like him? Good looks, rich family. Everyone calls him young Master Marcel, yet the only girl he's ever liked is you. But now he's with me, and he only treats me that way. You must really hate me, I replied evenly. No, I truly didn't. There had been a sense of loss. Yes, that hollow drop from warmth to emptiness. When someone used to be your whole world, always by your side, always making you laugh, always patient, it's easy to become dependent. And when they change, your heart plummets from the sky straight into the ground. Isabella gave a short, cold laugh. I really can't stand that holier-than-thou attitude of yours. What are you pretending for? He's with me because I fought for him, not because you granted him to me. Do you actually think someone like Marcel, with his family background, can't live without you? I finally understood. My calm confidence, that was what provoked her. I told her seriously. I never thought that. Don't define me however you please. But Isabella didn't listen. She stood up and walked away. People like her talk to themselves. They don't care about your feelings. They don't need your explanations. A few careless words from them can seal your fate. And whatever you say after that only sounds like guilt and denial. Chapter 7. I have a temper too. If you don't like me, I won't force myself to be liked. I treated her as a stranger, yet she just kept coming closer. After evening self-study, I was walking down the stairs when Isabella followed right behind me. Out of nowhere, she said, Serafina, I'm done playing this game. Can we be friends now? Please don't hate me. Then, without warning, her hand slipped under my clothes and grabbed my chest. I gasped. Reacting instinctively, shoved her away and slapped her hard. What the hell are you doing? She stumbled backward, crashed against the railing, and tumbled down 4 or 5 steps. A crowd suddenly appeared at the sound, Marcel at the front. He rushed down, pushed me aside, and went straight to Isabella, helping her up. His glare was cold and furious. You've gone too far, Isabella cried in his arms. I'm sorry. Marcel turned to me sharply, apologized to her. My fists tightened. I met his anger head-on. She should apologize to me. He snapped. You're always picking on her. I was about to stop the game to comfort you, but she immediately agreed to quit for your sake. She tried to make peace, and you still give her that face. A group of boys lingered nearby, watching the scene like it was a show. At our age, shame cuts deep, and I couldn't bring myself to say out loud what she'd just done. So I did something stupid. I texted him instead. She just grabbed my chest. To my horror, Marcel read it out loud. She grabbed your chest? Why couldn't you just say it directly? Gasps and whispers rippled through the hall. My face burned instantly, blood rushed to my head, then drained just as fast, leaving me cold. The stares from behind felt like needles pricking into my skin. My throat tightened. I couldn't get a single word out. Humiliation, anger, and the raw sting of being stripped bare in front of everyone drowned out reason completely. Marcel said coldly, You always blush when you lie. Still going to deny it? Then, again, he ordered, Apologize. If you don't, I'll just keep dating her. Choose. My pride has always been heavier than anything else. Even as my eyes blurred, I kept them wide open, refusing to let the tears fall. I straightened my back and walked past him, down the stairs. That night, Marcel came to me again, speaking with righteous indignation. You really crossed the line today, he said. Hitting someone and refusing to apologize? When did you become like this? I shot back. Oh, like what? He frowned and began listing my faults. You used to be quiet and gentle, obedient and kind. Now you're jealous, Mean to Isabella. And even violent. You're acting like some peasant shrew from the countryside. I was speechless. I didn't do anything wrong. Don't define me however you want. She started it every time. I turned to shut the door, but he raised his hand to stop me. I just want to see, he said. I frowned. See what? He looked straight at me. She supposedly grabbed your chest, right? Let me see. Chapter 8. Marcel reached his hand toward me, and I instinctively stepped back, startled. His expression darkened. Then he snapped. She let me look and touch. What are you pretending to be so pure for? Slap. Ha, so that's the difference between Isabella and me in his eyes? Without hesitation, I slapped him across the face. Marcel, you're a disappointment. It was the first time anyone had hit him. He froze, stunned, and then anger flared in his eyes. Get out, I said coldly. He blocked the door again, the arrogance from earlier gone, his voice soft and wounded. Fine, fine, you're not like her. I know that. I like that about you. But you're too impulsive, even if you're jealous. You shouldn't hit people. She's hurt, and she still told me to go apologize to you. I was too shocked to respond. The stranger standing in front of me no longer felt like the boy I once knew. That night, I realized something deeply. I couldn't keep studying here peacefully anymore. I wanted to transfer. Back when Marcel's mother had first suggested it, I'd already spoken with a teacher. With my grades, I could easily move to a better school. Coincidentally, just then, Marcel and Isabella were caught kissing on the playground by the dean, who promptly informed their parents. Marcel's mother had never been one to truly scold her son, but this time, she tore up the sponsorship contract right in front of me. You can transfer, she said flatly. He needs a wake-up call. We're even now. Tell me where you want to go. I felt like an object, placed wherever I was needed. When Marcel liked me, I transferred here. When he needed motivation, I was told to leave. This time, I didn't hesitate. All right. Once I made the decision, I didn't feel the sadness I had expected, only a strange, weightless relief. As for Marcel, I thought he was just changing, growing up, making mistakes. But his feelings for me, I had always believed, were once genuine. His companionship too, at least. That's what I thought, until I accidentally overheard their conversation. Chapter 9. After school, a group of them stayed behind in the classroom. I had forgotten my notebook of wrong questions and went back to get it. Just as I reached the door, I heard them talking inside. You think Serafina's really mad this time? Come on. She's crazy about you, and now you're dating the girl she hates most. She must hate your guts. Marcel's voice came, cold and sharp. Hate me? She wouldn't dare. She's the one who screwed up this time, and I haven't even punished her yet. Someone laughed. Man, you spoil her too much. You must really like her. Huh? Marcel hesitated, then said lazily. Like? I wouldn't call it that. My parents are always away on business. I get bored being home alone. She's just company. That's all. After her parents died, I was the only one she had. You could say I raised her. I know her inside out. She depends on me. Marrying her someday wouldn't be a problem. At least I know she's loyal. I didn't waste my effort. I'll keep her happy for now. If she's still good enough after graduation, I'll marry her. A voice, Ailes, spoke up quietly. She seems really sad these days. Silence. Then Marcel gave a short, mocking laugh. What? Ale, you like her or something? Too bad. She's my dog. Even if I get tired of her, it won't be your turn. Aw. So that's what it really was. His affection, fake. His companionship, calculated. A sharp sting burned behind my eyes, blurring my vision. Right then, Isabella appeared at the end of the hall. Her eyes were full of sympathy and pity, but her lips curved with triumph. I didn't feel pitiful. No, the pitiful ones were him, her, and all of them. I turned away and left. The notebook I had come back for, it was a book of mistakes. And mistakes, once learned, were never repeated. That night, I couldn't help opening the photo album. It was filled with moments, all the small pieces of time Marcel and I had shared. In every picture, it was just the two of us. In elementary school, we both smiled brightly. Later, I was the only one staring blankly at the camera, while he grinned and wrapped an arm around my shoulders. Everything looked so real, an entire album full of evidence. And yet, every bit of it was fake. A quiet voice inside me whispered, "Enough." What a pathetic illusion. I tore every photo to shreds. It wasn't an act of despair, it was the only way to let new air in. Chapter 10. After choosing my new school, I received a call from Buck. He sounded completely frazzled. "Cletus, I really want to improve. Please, tutor me a bit." I smiled and agreed without hesitation. "Sure." He let out a sigh of relief. "Thank God. I'm saved." So I spent my days buried in study, tutoring Buck in the evenings while preparing for my transfer paperwork. 2 whole weeks had passed without a single sign of Marcel, until one night, he suddenly appeared. He rang my doorbell again and again. I pretended not to hear it. A few minutes later, I heard a noise from outside, and then saw him climbing over from his balcony to mine. Our houses were right next to each other. All it took was a ladder across the balconies. He looked annoyed. "You're so focused on those papers you can't even hear me knocking?" I jumped at first, then glared at him. "Are you insane? If you fall, I can't afford the responsibility." Marcel stepped closer, his tone turning teasing. "Worried about me? Haven't seen me for so long, miss me yet?" I kept my eyes on my book. "No." He sighed in frustration. "You're still sulking? I didn't even hold a grudge after you slapped me. If you hadn't pushed Isabella down the stairs, would I have had to date her? I was apologizing for you, and you give me that attitude?" I set my pen down, keeping my voice steady. "She's the one who should have apologized to me. You wanted to date her. Don't act like it was some noble sacrifice." As soon as I said it, he swept his arm across my desk, knocking my papers and books to the floor. "Oh, look at you, top of the grade now. Too busy to even look at me?" I met his gaze and asked quietly, "What are you trying to do, Marcel?" For a moment, his anger faltered. His expression shifted, uncertain, almost embarrassed. "My 18th birthday's this Friday," he muttered. "I'm not celebrating at home. Don't bother waiting for me." I froze for half a second. That was the day he'd once said he wanted me to be his girlfriend. Thank God he'd forgotten. Tomorrow was my final exam. Friday, the day of his birthday, would also be the day I left East City. I bent down to pick up my papers. "All right." But young Master Marcel didn't leave. Still fuming, he snatched the pen from my hand and tossed it aside. "You can't go head to head with someone like him. He'll never stop." So I kept my tone calm. "I understand. Can you go now?" Just then, Buck's name flashed on my phone screen, an incoming voice call. Marcel saw the name and his eyes went wide with fury. His voice dropped to a growl. "Oh, I see. You've been ignoring me because you found yourself another guy?" He kicked my desk hard, the impact rattling through the floor. "Trying to make me jealous? That hick isn't even worthy. You'd have better luck making me jealous with a dog." He shot one last venomous look at my still ringing phone before storming out. Typical Marcel, too proud to confront someone he didn't consider a threat. I'd told him before that Buck was my grandmother's neighbor. He'd never cared to know anything about my life at Grandma's. To him, that small town and the people in it were nothing but backwater nobodies. Chapter 11. Actually, that wasn't the case at all. Buck's real name was Ambrose. He was the boy who transferred into my school when we were in 4th grade. He happened to be the grandson of the elderly man who lived next door to my grandmother's house. The first time we met, it was drizzling softly. I was wearing a floral dress that my grandmother had sewn for me, holding an umbrella as I walked home through the narrow alley, when suddenly, I saw someone climbing down a drain pipe. I froze. I had never seen such a daring kid before. When he got close enough to the ground, he simply jumped down, landing right in front of me. He was tall, with single-lidded eyes and a lean, sharp figure. There was something wild and cold about him, completely different from anyone else in town. I was so stunned by how cool he looked that I just stared. But he frowned slightly, curling his lips, and asked, "Cletus?" I was offended. I'd always carried myself with pride and grace, never letting my emotions show easily. "You're Buck," I retorted. And somehow, we ended up standing there, facing off like two little rivals, neither willing to back down. Then my grandmother called from the door, "Cletus." What are you standing there for? The boy burst into laughter, a bright, carefree sound. Ambrose was the outgoing type. He came to find me every day. When I ignored him, he'd call me Cletus just to annoy me. Once, I got so mad that I cried, and he panicked, trying to comfort me. Serafina, don't cry. I wasn't laughing at you, I just think your name is cute. I kept my lips pressed together, tears still streaming down my face. He fumbled helplessly, words tumbling out awkwardly. How about you call me Buck then? Cletus? Please don't cry, okay? I couldn't help it, I let out a laugh through my tears. Fine, you'll be Buck from now on. Ambrose transferred to my class and used his neighbor status to insist on being my desk mate. He was from a big city, with a completely different air about him, stylish clothes, confident posture. He was handsome and cool, spoke both Mandarin and English fluently, and quickly became the teacher's favorite. But he didn't like studying. Every day he led a few friends to skip class, climbing hills, swimming in rivers, wandering everywhere. During holidays, he'd drag me along to catch fish in the river. When I refused, he'd shout my name to threaten me. I always chased him in anger, hitting him whenever I caught him, but he never changed his ways. One time, I sprained my ankle while running after him. My ankle swelled visibly, and I burst into tears. He was terrified. He carried me all the way home on his back, while I cried and hit him and tugged his hair. After that, even though school was only a 5-minute walk away, he insisted on giving me rides on his bicycle every morning and afternoon for 3 whole years. Before picking me up each day, he'd already bought breakfast, custard buns and milk. During that time, Ambrose became uncharacteristically well-behaved, never late, never skipping class, and even improving his grades. But when we started middle school, we each transferred elsewhere. After my grandmother passed away, we lost contact completely. The summer after my sophomore year of high school, I went back to my grandmother's house and happened to run into him again. He had grown taller, his features more defined and striking. At 165 meters, I suddenly felt small and delicate beside him. At first, we didn't recognize each other until he called out, "Cletus?" His excitement was beyond what I expected. Eyes red, he pulled me into a tight hug. He asked me countless questions: what city I was studying in, what university I wanted to apply to, if I had a boyfriend, if there was someone I liked. I laughed. "What are you, the Census Bureau?" He smirked lazily. "Just curious. We were desk mates for years." After all, I told him there was someone I liked, but I hadn't decided on a university yet, that it was a secret. Ambrose looked down, thinking hard, then insisted that I tell him exactly which school I aimed for. I asked, "What about you? Which one do you want? What's your score like?" Ambrose rubbed his face with both hands. "You know I've never liked studying, but I'm planning to get into a good university this time. The one you're aiming for definitely isn't ordinary, so let it be my goal too." I said, "If you score 600 or more on the entrance exam, I'll tell you." He grinned. "Deal. If I get over 600, you'll tell me which university you want to go to." Chapter 12. After that time we added each other on WeChat. We didn't talk again. The day Marcel and Isabella played their little love game was the first time we'd contacted each other since leaving Grandma's house. I didn't plan to tell anyone about transferring schools. After all, my classmates weren't close to me anyway. Before, there had been girls who tried to get close to me just so they could confess to Marcel, and he wouldn't allow me to make new friends. I chose a high school in the capital. I wasn't planning to return to Dongqing again, so I asked Marcel's mother to help sell the house. During summer break, I took my parents' belongings back to Grandma's place. The only things left that belonged to me were books and a few sets of clothes. The books and papers could be mailed, and all my clothes fit in one suitcase. After the final exam, that same night, Marcel's mother came back from a business trip. She invited me over for dinner. She said it was a farewell meal for me. Marcel was in an unusually good mood. Tomorrow was his birthday, and he was going on a trip with Isabella. He told me, "Help me pack a couple of outfits for the trip later." Marcel's mother and I exchanged a glance but said nothing, because she felt guilty for not being around him much. She spoiled her son beyond measure. After dinner, while Marcel was playing games, I started putting his toiletries into his suitcase. He came up behind me and wrapped his arms around my waist. "Don't be upset," he said softly. "I'll only be gone 2 days. I'll be back soon." I frowned and pushed him away. "What are you doing?" He didn't like that, and his tone turned commanding. "Open the 3rd drawer and pack what's inside." Fine. I thought I might as well do one last thing for him. I walked over and opened the drawer and froze. Inside was a box of condoms. My face burned instantly. The words on the box made me feel deeply ashamed. From behind, he urged me on, his voice laced with teasing anticipation. "Come on, put it in the suitcase." The moment my fingertips brushed against the cold plastic wrapper, my stomach twisted. I took a deep breath and, like handling something filthy, quickly tossed the box deep into the suitcase and zipped it shut. I didn't look at him again. It felt like even one more glance would dirty me. When I went downstairs, the sound of the door slamming behind me was so loud it echoed through the hall. Marcel's mother sat on the sofa with her laptop. "The house has been dealt with," she said. "The money will be transferred to you in the next couple of days." I nodded. "Okay." When I got home, I turned on every light in the house and wandered through every room, upstairs and down. Finally, I sat by the window in my parents' room, staring up at the stars. I remembered coming home for summer break in 1st grade, that rare evening when Mom and Dad weren't busy. We'd sat in the courtyard together, watching the stars, chatting idly. It was mostly me chattering away. "Mom, what's the capital like?" Mom smiled. "It's a lively, modern, international city," I said. "Grandpa next door is a professor at Capital University. I want to go there someday too." Dad laughed. "That old man's amazing. Serafina can ask him questions and learn from him." At dawn, I left the house with my suitcase. I looked back one last time at the home where my parents had lived, then boarded the earliest flight to the capital. Chapter 13. Marcel stared at the house next door and tried calling Serafina. Her phone was turned off. All the doors and windows upstairs were shut tight. Still sleeping in? He thought. Irritated. He'd always dreamed that on his 18th birthday, she would finally become his girlfriend. But lately, she'd been so defiant, not only hitting him, but also ignoring him completely. Just last night, he had been thinking that if she would only lower her pride a little, he would immediately confess, become her boyfriend, and treat her well. He never expected her to be so bold. He'd stayed up all night, received birthday wishes from everyone except Serafina. So Marcel decided not to confess. At least not yet. He wanted her to feel a little crisis, a bit of pressure. He made up his mind not to talk to her until she came to him first. Then Marcel and Isabella set off on their trip. On the plane, Isabella was thrilled, but Marcel just stared listlessly out the window. Suddenly, everything felt pointless. He couldn't understand what Isabella was so happy about. She leaned against him and smiled, that same bright, sweet smile that used to make his heart skip a beat. Now, that smile only annoyed him, but since they were already there, he couldn't just go back. That would only make Serafina act even more arrogantly. When the 2-day trip finally ended and he returned home, there were still no messages or missed calls from Serafina. The house next door was as quiet as ever. The day before New Year's Eve, Marcel's parents came back. Unlike before, they didn't ask about Serafina, nor did they invite her over for dinner. With no one giving him an excuse to reach out, he couldn't swallow his pride enough to go find her himself. But the more he missed her, the more irritable he became. "Why are you pacing around the living room?" his father said. "If you're bored, go play somewhere," Marcel snapped, frustration boiling over. "Do you people have no heart? It's New Year's, and you're not even inviting Serafina over for dinner." His father frowned. "Didn't she leave?" "Left? Left where?" "Went back to Grandma's." "But Grandma was dead." Marcel stormed back to his room and started smashing things. The thought that Serafina had just up and left without a word made him furious. Before she came back for school, he swore, absolutely swore, he wouldn't be the one to reach out first. Chapter 14. Every new year after that one felt pretty much the same, except this year was quieter. Time passed quickly when I was buried in practice problems. Loneliness didn't really have room to exist. At night, Ambrose would still call me. Sometimes we'd discuss study questions. Other times, we'd just stay on the line without saying anything. On New Year's Day, he told me he'd won a bunch of money playing mahjong and even transferred some to me. The 12 days of winter break in senior year flew by in the blink of an eye. On the first day of school, I stepped into my new classroom, nervous but hopeful. When the homeroom teacher introduced my name on the podium, the boy sitting by the window suddenly looked up. Our eyes met, and my heart skipped a beat. It was Ambrose. The reason I'd chosen this high school in the capital was because it had the highest university admission rate. Seeing him again made my heart race. There was a kind of joy that came after surviving chaos. The whole class cheered at my arrival. Ambrose stood up and said, "Teacher, Seraphina's my neighbor. Let her sit in front of me, it'll help her adapt better to a new environment." The students in the back row protested. "Ambrose, that's shady, hiding such a pretty girl from us." "Come on, Ambrose, you're smiling way too wide. Something's going on." Ambrose's lips curved up as he tossed his pen at them. Half laughing, half scolding, "Shut your mouths." Someone chimed in, "Nah, it's been ages since Ambrose smiled like that." Another added, "Correction, it's the first time ever we've seen him smile this much." The whole class burst out laughing. That jerk Ambrose, he always managed to stir up my emotions without even trying. I turned my head and glared at him, mouthing, "Shut up." He mimed zipping his lips and then gestured to the back row. The entire room fell silent at once. At lunch, Ambrose brought me to the cafeteria. When I pulled out my phone, I saw dozens of missed calls and unread messages from Marcel. "When did you transfer schools? Pick up the phone. I didn't use that box of condoms." "Seraphina, you can't fucking do this," replied to me. "Answer the phone." The screen lit up again, another call from Marcel. I reluctantly answered. His voice was dark, heavy. "Where are you?" "At school," I said calmly. A loud bang came from his side. He'd slammed his hand on the table. I asked which school. "Give me the damn address." He went on, his temper burning out as fast as it flared. "My mom won't tell me unless I score in the top 50 of the grade. Just tell me, okay? Be good. Let me come find you. I'll explain everything in person." I stayed steady. "Marcel, there's no need. You don't have to find me or explain. Don't contact me again." I hung up without hesitation and deleted every trace of him, every message, every contact. Whether he used that box or not had nothing to do with me anymore. On the second day of their trip, Isabella had sent me a photo, Marcel half naked. On top of her, I found it ridiculous and immediately blocked her too. Ambrose appeared just then, holding 2 trays of food, and set one down in front of me. He'd been cheerful all morning. "You should have told me earlier. I could have shown you around the capital." Then he smirked. "What about that childhood sweetheart of yours?" It took me a second to react. Right, I'd once mentioned Marcel back at Grandma's house. Even showed him a photo. He'd looked unimpressed, calling the name so country, and his expression seeing the photo was pure disdain. "He's gone," I said simply. Ambrose looked like he was holding back a laugh. With mock sympathy, he said, "Oh, sorry, I didn't know. When did he die?" I couldn't help it. I burst out laughing. "Buck!" I shouted, pretending to be angry. Chapter 15. Marcel started calling again, a new number this time, blowing up my phone. When I didn't answer, the messages began to pour in. "I know you're still mad, but transferring schools without saying a word was too much. Fine. If you won't tell me, I'll study hard and make it into the top 50 of my grade. Then Mom will tell me. Wait for me." So this was what Marcel's mother meant when she said he needed motivation? I simply changed my SIM card, only kept WeChat. Back at my old school, I'd been ranked first in my grade, but with the same score here, I was only in the top 30. Not long after the semester started, the school held a vow assembly. Ambrose stood up and declared, loud and solemn, "I'll fight to the death following Seraphina." When the results of the first mock exam came out, I scored 667 in total. Ambrose was a few points short of 600. In the tougher second mock, our scores dropped a bit. By the third mock exam, I was around 680, and Ambrose finally hit 600. He held up his report card, eyebrow raised with a triumphant grin. "So, which university are you aiming for?" "Capital University," I answered. He laughed freely. "I guessed that, but I wanted to hear you say it yourself." Then he leaned closer, eyebrow arched, his eyes gleaming with lazy mischief. "Wanna know my secret?" he asked. My heart skipped. I instinctively took a deep breath and lowered my head, pretending to focus on my papers. Boring, I muttered. I hadn't realized it before, how he always found ways to tease me, to get under my skin, to make me chase him in irritation. He was incapable of calm or gentleness, and he was so possessive anyone who dared call me Cletus in front of him would get a beating. But he himself never stopped calling me that. He even used his neighborly privilege as an excuse to intercept every love letter written to me. None ever reached my hands. I was too focused on studying to care. But ever since I transferred, the way he looked at me had changed, his gaze always burning, intense. He insisted on walking to and from school together, studying at the library during breaks, escorting me home afterward. Now he was determined to get into the same university as me, and I liked that. I liked his presence, steady, passionate, unwavering, a boy with striking looks and a naturally rebellious aura. Yet sitting there quietly, working through problems with full concentration, it was incredibly attractive. But for now, the college entrance exam was all that mattered. Ambrose was still that infuriating buck. He leaned on his desk, chin resting in his palm, that confident, roguish smile tugging at his lips. If you don't want to know, fine, you'll find out eventually. I could hear my own heartbeat, my cheeks burning. Tell me after you get in, I said softly, riding high on his 600 points. Ambrose was all arrogance. Piece of cake, he said. I can get in without even trying. I shot back, laughing. You've been studying like a dog, ever since I transferred. He'd insisted we study together on video calls every night, mutual supervision. He called it. Sometimes, when we finally finished our papers, it was already past 1 in the morning. He'd lean close to the camera, his voice low and teasing. Yeah, just learning from my dear Cletus. I couldn't help rolling my eyes. You're the dog, a big one. His ears turned red as he chuckled flirtatiously. MHM. Yeah. I'm your big puppy. My heartbeat thundered in my chest. Looking at him, I pressed my lips together and said quietly, let's get into Capital University together. His face lit up, like sunlight breaking through heavy clouds, his smile bright and unrestrained. Deal. Chapter 16. We were completely immersed in the countdown to the college entrance exams. Our study hours stretched longer and longer. Ambrose still went out of his way to walk me to and from school. At night, under the excuse of mutual supervision, we'd video call and study together, each of us lost in our own review sessions. When the exams finally ended, Ambrose's mother came holding 2 bouquets of sunflowers. She handed one to me. Her sudden appearance left me stunned. Ambrose's mother was graceful, elegant, and poised. When she was silent, there was a cool authority about her, the kind that strong women naturally exude. But when she spoke, her warmth made her feel like the approachable goddess next door. I've wanted to meet you for a long time, she said, but I didn't want to interrupt your studies. This brat wouldn't let me. Don't be nervous. It's our first time meeting, but I already know you well. Back when he lived with his grandfather, every time he called home, he mentioned you. There's even a special photo album of you in his room. That floral dress looked lovely on you. Don't misunderstand. I'm just curious about the girl who stayed in my son's heart for so many years, the one who inspired him to work hard. I should thank you for showing up in his life, for being his role model, for sparing us so much worry. Because our class was having a graduation dinner that night, Ambrose's mother didn't stay long. She just told him to bring me over to their house sometime soon. On the way to the restaurant, I was still dazed from meeting his mom. Your mom, she knows about me. Ambrose walked closer and gently took my hand. His voice tightened. Yeah, she's always known. We both understood without saying more, walking silently side by side. The dinner that night was loud and wild. Everyone was drunk on the freedom of graduation. People took turns roasting teachers to their faces. Some got brave enough to confess their crushes outright. Others did it through drinking games. The boys who came to ask for my WeChat or confess to me turned right around the second they saw Ambrose. And the girls who came to confess to him were met with a calm nod toward me. I'm taken. When the homeroom teacher picked up the microphone to make a closing speech, Ambrose grabbed my hand and pulled me out of there. We walked under the streetlights, his fingers tightly interlocked with mine, never letting go, not even when we reached my building. He stood firm, his posture steady, face calm and unflushed. I'm drunk, he said. Need to sit somewhere for a bit. I glanced at the McDonald's nearby. I'll go with you. He didn't move. His eyes were mischievous. Does your house have a cat that can do backflips? I tried not to laugh. No. He grinned shamelessly. I can. Want me to come perform at your place? I rolled my eyes but led him upstairs anyway. The moment I closed the door, he cornered me. He leaned down, so close I could see the quiver of his eyelashes. Feel the warm breath brushing against my lips. Still don't want to know my secret? He whispered. His fingertips brushed lightly against my ear, sending shivers through me. Then, without waiting for an answer, he said softly, Serafina. His voice was husky, his gaze burning, pulling me in like gravity. I like you. From the moment I climbed down that pipe and saw you, I was done for. I've already decided. My college choices follow yours. My future plans include you. So now, will you take in this big puppy and be my girlfriend? My lips tingled, that itch spreading like a current straight to my heart. He rubbed his thumb gently along my cheek, murmuring, Cletus. Serafina, my Serafina. I can hear your heartbeat. I leaned in, brushing my lips against his, my silent answer. Shy, but something I'd wanted to do for a long time. He was just so irresistible. Ambrose lit up like fireworks bursting in the night. He cupped the back of my head and deepened the kiss. The instant our tongues touched, a shiver ran down my spine. He always had this way of overwhelming my senses, thrilling, unforgettable, and pure. Like the drizzle that day and his carefree laughter. Like his panic when I was hurt. Like that blazing summer afternoon when we sat by the doorway, sharing half a frozen watermelon, 1 spoon each. Each bite a burst of cool, sweet relief in the heat. Chapter 17. Now that Ambrose officially had a title, he refused to go home. He insisted on staying on voice call with me until he got back. The moment I turned on my phone, WeChat exploded with new messages and several friend requests. Messages from my old classmates. Serafina. Young Master Marcel is going crazy looking for you. You wouldn't believe it, he and Isabella are screaming at each other. Then one from Marcel's mother. Send me your new phone number. Even the text carried that commanding tone she always had. But I was in a really good mood tonight, so I didn't reply to any of them. Ambrose noticed. He didn't push me to talk or stay on call either. He just kissed my cheek lightly and said, Turn off your phone tonight. Sleep well. If anything happens, call me tomorrow. I'm taking you on a date. When I nodded obediently, he grew bolder, teasing. Or I could just stay here with you. Bang! 2 seconds later, I shoved him out the door and slammed it shut. Then I went to the window to watch him leave. He looked up, a smirk tugging at his lips. What do? I already miss you, he said. It's strange, just seeing him always makes my heart race. Chapter 18. The next morning, when I turned on my phone, I saw that Marcel's mother had called dozens of times the night before and sent a stream of threatening messages. Serafina, you must come back tomorrow. If you're still angry, I'll kneel and apologize. Anything you want, just come back, okay? Call me as soon as you see this. The earlier messages had clearly been from Marcel himself. The later ones carried his mother's tone. Out of respect for her as an elder, I replied politely, Auntie, is something wrong? She immediately called. I didn't answer, so she called again, and again. Clearly, she wasn't going to stop until I picked up. When I finally answered, Marcel's voice burst through the speaker. Serafina, are you back? No, I said calmly. I thought I'd made myself very clear. I'm not throwing a tantrum, Marcel. I'm just living my life. Please stop contacting me. He grew angry. What do you mean? You're not taking the Dongqing exams? You don't want to be with me anymore? Yes, I said firmly. Dongqing was never my goal. I just wavered for a while. But in the end, I decided to follow my heart. Marcel's voice broke, desperate and raw. I don't accept that. Serafina, you can't do this. It was just a game. I like you. I only like you. I love you. I wasn't good to you. When your parents died overnight, who stayed with you? Me. I was the one who stayed. From middle school to high school. And now you just leave? You have no conscience. Fine. I'll come find you. I hated arguing, always had. Whenever people raised their voices, I just wanted to go silent and let them say whatever they wanted. Then Marcel's mother's voice came through, cold and sharp. Serafina, I was the one who handled your parents' affairs. I was the one who hired the lawyer and protected that house from your greedy relatives. For 5 or 6 years, you didn't have a cent to your name. It was me who funded your education. My son may not be perfect, but he was there for you when you were at your loneliest, comforting you, staying by your side. Boys his age are playful, not malicious. I think you're being ungrateful. I walked to the window, sunlight spilling across the floor, and decided this was the last time I'd let the past hold me down. Auntie, I said evenly, I've always been grateful to you, but I already paid back the money before the new semester started. My parents owned a piece of land. It could have been auctioned, but you used our connection to sign a deal and took it for far less than market price. So, I suppose your care over the years was a way to balance that debt. I hung up, and for the first time in years, I exhaled, deeply, freely. It was the lightest I'd felt in a long time. Then, outside, I saw someone riding a bicycle in the distance. The first thing I noticed was the bouquet of fresh flowers in his hand. He was holding it with one hand, the other gripping the handlebars. Bold and carefree under the morning sun, but his coolness lasted all of 5 seconds. He nearly slipped at the bottom of the building, barely saving himself with those long legs. Then he looked up at me, grinning, bright, unrestrained, radiant. I realized I didn't want someone who only said they loved me, or claimed to do what was best for me. What truly moved me was someone who showed it through action. I raised my hand and took the shot, posting it on my moments. To set out, it's both the future and you. Chapter 19. When we went out again, I held Ambrose's arm, discussing where we should go for fun. Then, I saw Marcel getting out of a car by the roadside. He was still wearing his wrinkled school uniform. His hair was messy, his face exhausted, eyes bloodshot, and a faint stubble shadowed his chin. Serafina. For a moment, I didn't recognize him until he rushed forward and swung a fist toward Ambrose. Ambrose reacted instantly, kicking Marcel away before the punch could land. Marcel got up, fists trembling, his voice shaking. Serafina, I was wrong. I'm sorry. Can you come back to me? Didn't you like me? You promised to be my girlfriend. You can't betray me. The proud young master of the Fu family from East City, when had he ever been this humble? I pitied him, but I could never love a man who only looked pitiful. If he and Isabella had faced their relationship openly, I might have even thought he had some backbone. I stopped Ambrose, who was about to hit him again, and looked Marcel straight in the eye. I have a boyfriend now. Marcel Fu's face twisted with pain, his expression restrained yet desperate. He let out a hollow laugh. Was I not good to you? I've always been there for you. What is he compared to me? You two have only known each other for 1 semester. Do you really think he loves you that much? He's just playing around, just like I did with Isabella. But with you, it's different. No matter how I played, I only ever liked you. Can he say the same? Ambrose laced his fingers through mine and said firmly, yes, I can. I didn't start liking her this semester. I've liked her since the 4th grade. Marrying her has been my goal since elementary school. I've never wavered. Not once. Ambrose finished and led me away, continuing our date. My heart was full of questions, and seeing him blush, I teased him. You knew about love that early? And already decided to marry me? His face turned even redder as he gazed deeply at me. So what if I was early to mature? I liked you. I chose you. When I heard from my grandfather that your grandmother passed away, I rushed back overnight, seeing you in his arms, so dependent on him. I felt powerless. Even after returning to the capital, I couldn't forget you. Every winter and summer break, I went back, but you never returned again. I never thought I'd finally meet you during the summer of our sophomore year. The more sincere his confession became, the more flustered and shy I felt. Ambrose's gaze burned deep and intense. Then, as if noticing my embarrassment, he turned back into the mischievous buck. Cletus, I've missed you so much all these years. Chapter 20. When we returned, Marcel was already gone. His mother sent me a message. I took him away. If I had known you'd be such an ungrateful wretch, I never would have helped you back then. I ignored her emotional manipulation. It was she who said she'd sponsor my studies to repay a favor, and she who later claimed we owed each other nothing. I had already returned every cent of her financial aid. Ambrose took me home. His parents were incredibly warm and kind, filling the house with laughter and warmth. They loved teasing Ambrose about his embarrassing childhood stories. Apparently, he started dating in kindergarten. If someone skipped class with him, she was his girlfriend, and if someone gave him food, he'd fall in love. I laughed at him, and he silenced me with a kiss. After taking full advantage, he murmured, "You never skipped class or fed me snacks. But I only ever wanted to fall in love with you. I just want to stay with you forever." When our college entrance exam results came out, both of us were admitted to Capital University. I chose law. Ambrose chose economics and management. As freshman year began, I felt the heat and vitality of summer. We walked hand in hand, heading toward the same future. University life was fulfilling, studying, loving. It was the kind of life I cherished. I grew to love myself more, and I was more and more satisfied with who I was becoming. Chapter 21. Later, I heard from former classmates that Isabella had been 4 months pregnant before the college entrance exams. The child was Marcel's. Marcel's mother wanted Isabella to have an abortion, and Marcel himself refused to acknowledge the baby. But Isabella had already suffered 2 miscarriages before transferring schools in senior year, and the doctor warned that another one might leave her unable to conceive again. Her family insisted she give birth. When the baby was born, a paternity test confirmed that it was indeed Marcel's child. They weren't old enough to register their marriage, so they hastily held a wedding that no one blessed. Marcel studied at East City University, while Isabella barely managed to get into a vocational college. She took a leave of absence to care for the child at home. Every time they met, it ended in endless quarrels, blaming and resenting each other. But with a child between them, they were bound together in mutual torment. Later, Marcel, drunk and furious, sent Isabella to the hospital with his blows. After that, he never went home again. In college, he grew even wilder. Those classmates who once admired them now avoided Isabella whenever they saw her, afraid to hear her ghostly weeping, and to face that endless grief and resentment in her eyes. When I was pursuing my PhD and engaged to Ambrose, Marcel came to Capital University to find me. He stood on the leafy boulevard, his thin figure like a faded silhouette, utterly out of place amid the vibrancy of youth. The once proud young Master Marcel had been reduced to a hollow shell, crushed by life. His voice was hoarse and broken. "I can't accept it, but I no longer deserve to stand by your side." I looked at him calmly, my heart completely still, as if I were watching a stranger's tragedy. "It's all in the past," I said. There was no hatred in my voice, only complete detachment. He left, dejected and disheveled. My life had long ceased to have anything to do with him. I only hoped we would never cross paths again. Chapter 22. Life's encounters are always mysterious. Even after all the twists and misfortunes, you can still meet the one who makes your heart race fiercely. Sunlight filtered through the leaves, dancing across Ambrose's smiling eyes. I gripped his hand tightly, feeling the warmth in my palm, real and burning. That summer, filled with lies and manipulation, had long since died. Now, holding the blossoms in my hands and running toward the blazing sun, my true summer had finally returned. Story 2. Chapter 1. At the class reunion, Lisa handed me her phone and said there was something I should see. I didn't think much of it and clicked to open it. As I looked up, Colin's post from 2 minutes ago appeared on the screen. In the end, I still couldn't marry the person I most wanted to marry. Beneath the words was a photo of a marriage certificate. Compelled by some strange impulse, I pulled out my own phone, only to see that Colin's posts were limited to the past 6 months. At that moment, a cold feeling crept into my heart, and the joy from receiving my own marriage certificate earlier today vanished without a trace. A flood of sadness and frustration overwhelmed me. Looking around at the noise in the room, I couldn't even muster the strength to cry out loud. "Zoe, give me back my phone," Lisa said cheerfully, stretching her hand toward me. At that moment, I finally understood. She was telling me that she was the one Colin truly wanted to marry. After Lisa left, My phone rang. I stared at the name on the screen for a long time. So long that the ringing stopped before I realized. The phone rang again. I excused myself and left the gathering. Out on the busy street, watching the people passing by, I smiled as tears began to fall. Once I had calmed down, I called Colin back. Zoe, why didn't you answer the phone? Colin's irritated voice came at me from the other end. I quietly listened to him rant. When he finally ran out of steam, I said, Colin, let's get a divorce. A couple who gets divorced right after getting married. You probably wouldn't find another like us in the whole world. Stop joking around. When are you coming home? Colin didn't take it seriously, thinking I was just teasing. I'm not coming back. Let's meet at 10 a.m. tomorrow to finalize the divorce. Colin finally lost his patience. Do whatever you want, he said before hanging up. That night, I stayed in a hotel, crying as I deleted everything related to Colin. Chapter 2. As expected. Love that is forced has no meaning. The next day, I waited until 10:30 a.m. But Colin was nowhere to be seen. Just as I was about to call him, Lisa sent me a photo. In the photo, Colin was playing with my cat, Daisy, while Lisa, wearing the clothes I had just bought, smiled at him. The atmosphere between them was just right. The phone rang for a long time before someone answered. Hello. It was Lisa's voice. I closed my eyes and, with a trembling voice, said, let Colin answer the phone. Just a moment. Lisa's tone was calm. Hello? After a while, Colin's lazy voice came through. Come to the civil affairs office right now. We're getting a divorce. Watching the couples registering, I once again felt pathetic. Colin said nothing on the other end. Just as I thought something was wrong with my phone, he scoffed and sneered. Zoe, playing hard to get is fine for a while, but don't overdo it. I heard the impatience in his voice and repeated myself. If you don't come, I'll file for a contested divorce. If it doesn't work the first time, I'll do it again. This divorce is happening. Realizing I was serious, Colin grew angry and embarrassed. What's your problem? I'm not causing trouble. I just think this marriage is meaningless. Colin, I admit I was the one who chased you, but that doesn't give you the right to treat me like this. If you don't love me, you shouldn't have married me. Colin's voice slowed, filled with gritted teeth. How did I mistreat you? Be clear. I didn't bother to argue further and simply told him I'd be waiting at the civil affairs office. Colin arrived quickly. As soon as he saw me, he rushed over and grabbed my hand. Come home with me. I didn't pull away, just looked at him and smiled. You disgust me. Colin, who had been pampered his whole life, had never been treated like this. He grabbed my chin harshly, his eyes filled with fury. Do you even know what you're saying? I grabbed his hand and asked instead. Did you post something on your moments yesterday? Is Lisa lying on our marital bed right now? Do you even love me? My barrage of questions made Colin frown. After a long pause, he finally said, if that's how you want to think, I can't stop you, but I can promise, I've never betrayed you. I looked at him, my heart growing colder by the second. You don't need to make any promises to me. Let's part ways amicably. The more you cling to this, the more I'll look down on you. Colin's pride kept him from saying anything too humble. He looked straight at me and said coldly, fine, I'll give you what you want. Just don't regret it later. I will never regret it. Colin let go of me and drove off to get the documents. 2 hours later, we walked out of the civil affairs office. Colin asked when I would pick up my things from the new house. Throw them away. I don't want any of it. And Daisy? Colin still wouldn't give up. Give her to someone else. I left those words behind and got into a taxi to leave. From that day on, Colin completely disappeared from my life. Chapter 3. When news of my divorce spread, everyone around me said I was heartless. To shut them up, I posted screenshots of Colin's moments and the photo Lisa had sent me on my social media. I thought they would have nothing left to say, but they quickly turned around and defended Colin. I deactivated all my social media accounts, and life gradually became quieter. A week later, I agreed to a company transfer and moved to another city for a new start. My father was furious about my divorce, feeling humiliated. No matter how much I tried to explain, he wouldn't listen. even going so far as to say I was no longer his daughter. Old friends also criticized me for being too dramatic. In their eyes, someone as ordinary as me should have been grateful to marry someone like Colin. A once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. I lived alone in the new city for 3 years until I found true love again. Andrew was a pastry chef. He wasn't the type for sweet words, but he understood me deeply. He knew when I was cold or sad. He respected and truly got me. I was the rose he nurtured in the palm of his hand. And with him, I was happy. This year, how about I take you home to meet my parents? I asked, casually mentioning my thoughts while eating the lunch Andrew made. He gently wiped a crumb from the corner of my mouth, smiled, and nodded. Then I'll have to trouble our Zoe. Don't mention it. Because of Andrew, I no longer feared love or marriage. 3 years was enough time for my father to soften his heart. When he saw how well Andrew treated me, my parents started to accept him. But just when Andrew and I were about to have our wedding, Colin's family reappeared. His older sister, Clara, asked to meet with me, saying there was something important to discuss. Not wanting to get involved with them again, I declined. I thought it would just be a minor episode. But when Andrew's work started encountering setbacks, I began to suspect that someone was pulling strings. Zoe, meet with me. I'll give you the answers you're looking for. Clara's tone was that of someone used to being in control, filled with pressure. I went to the restaurant and looked at Clara across the table. Memories of those unbearable times 3 years ago flashing back, along with the contempt she had shown me. We sat across from each other, neither of us speaking. Once the waiter left, Clara pulled out a card and placed it on the table. This is 1,000,000 yuans. I don't have any other request. Just that you return to Colin. I won't oppose your relationship anymore. What? It felt like I had just heard the most absurd joke in the world. Clara looked at me, a faint hint of disgust in her eyes. Because he's sick. Very sick. Ever since he found out you were getting married, he's become even more unhinged. His emotions are spiraling out of control. From Clara, I learned that Colin knew everything that had happened to me in the past 3 years. She said Colin loved me so much that he was losing his mind. When you left without a word, Colin couldn't find you, so he locked himself in the new house and refused to eat or drink. It wasn't until I realized something was wrong that I managed to pull him back from the brink of death. After he found out where you were, he kept watching you from a distance. If it weren't for the fact that you're getting married, his condition wouldn't have worsened so suddenly. Hearing Clara say this, I finally understood why everyone had been calling me heartless. Colin had painted himself as a deeply devoted lover. So naturally, I became the heartbreaker in everyone's eyes. Zoe, I don't know what happened between you 3 years ago, but even if he's made unforgivable mistakes, hasn't he suffered enough? Do you know, when he realized you were gone, he cried and begged me to help him find you. He didn't do anything, just lived surrounded by your things. Even now, your new home is untouched, kept just as it was. The Colin she was describing didn't sound like the arrogant Colin I remembered. I don't love him anymore, so I'm sorry. I love Andrew now. I grabbed my bag and was about to leave when Clara quietly added, aren't you afraid something might happen to Andrew? Shouldn't you be afraid something might happen to Colin? If you so much as lay a finger on Andrew, I promise your brother will wish he were dead. With that threat, I glanced at Clara, whose face had turned pale with fury, and smiled as I walked out of the restaurant. Chapter 4. Just when I thought my life was finally returning to normal, I ran into Colin at work. He had come to the company as a new shareholder to evaluate operations. Standing in the corner of the conference room, I held my breath as I watched Colin get closer and closer. The past 3 years had completely changed him. He looked at me with such calm eyes that it felt like we were nothing more than strangers. Seeing him like this, he didn't seem nearly as neurotic as Clara had made him out to be. Once the meeting began, someone asked Colin why he had decided to invest in the city. Because my beloved is here, he said, without any context. As soon as the words left his mouth, the room filled with gasps of surprise. A few female employees looked visibly heartbroken. I stared at Colin, feeling utterly disgusted by his show of affection. Are you married? My boss, manager, cautiously asked him. I was, but we got divorced. Colin lowered his head, smiling with what seemed like helplessness. Seeing him look so pitiful, it was no wonder my parents and friends all thought I was ungrateful. After Colin's statement, the room fell silent. Everyone suddenly fearful of saying something that might upset him. Colin glanced at me casually and lightened the mood. "Don't worry. I believe I'll win her back." "Of course. With someone like you, it's only a matter of time before she returns." Everyone chimed in with nervous laughter. I couldn't tell if Colin was doing this on purpose, but that was when I noticed the ring on his left hand's ring finger, the same couple's ring that had only cost 500 yuan, the one Colin had once despised and wanted to throw away. At that moment, Colin's assistant entered and handed him a box. As soon as I heard the familiar sound of a cat meowing from inside, I froze in place. Daisy, the cat I had rescued and raised. Colin had been upset with me many times over Daisy, as he had never wanted me to keep her. "It seems Daisy has a real liking for designer Zoe," Colin said with a smirk. Glancing at me, my thoughts snapped back to reality. Looking at Daisy now curled up by my feet, I couldn't help but pick her up. Daisy's sudden attachment made everyone's imaginations run wild, but I shoved her back into Colin's arms and returned to my seat. Chapter 5. As soon as lunchtime arrived, Andrew called to tell me he was waiting outside the office. When I took the elevator downstairs, I happened to run into Colin and his group coming in. I mechanically greeted them and quickly retreated to a corner, trying to blend into the background. "Zoe, is your fiancé here to bring you lunch again?" the manager asked with a smile, breaking the silence in the elevator. "Yes," I mumbled, keeping my head down, aware of Colin's gaze and trying to make myself as invisible as possible. The sudden tension from Colin made everyone too afraid to speak. I pulled out my phone and started chatting with Andrew to distract myself. Once the elevator doors opened and the group had left, I dashed out to meet Andrew. "Slow down." I opened the lunchbox and, seeing the delicious meal, couldn't help but tease. "Andrew, you're so domestic." "What can I say? You're picky with your food." Andrew pinched my cheek playfully. When I used to be with Colin, no matter how much I lowered myself, he remained indifferent. Now, looking back, I realize it wasn't love. He just thought I was easy to control. After lunch, we agreed to go try on wedding dresses after work. I was heading back to the office for a quick nap when I ran into Colin in the elevator again. I kept my head down, pretending not to recognize him, and was about to step out when Colin suddenly grabbed me. Before I could react, he had me pinned against the elevator wall, his eyes red with frustration. "Zoe, you're really something. How am I not better than him? You'd rather live a hard life with him than be my wife. Let me go." Smack! Colin wouldn't loosen his grip, so I slapped him across the face, furious. "He's 100 times better than you. The most important thing is, we love each other. That's something you will never be able to compete with." Colin stood frozen, his head tilted to the side. When he looked back at me, his eyes were filled with a dangerous, bloodthirsty rage. My heart sank, terrified that Colin might do something reckless. I pushed him away with all my strength and ran as fast as I could. Chapter 6. Because of him, I couldn't focus at work, and I didn't even dare go to the break room. On the way to the bridal shop with Andrew that evening, I finally brought up the idea of resigning. "What's wrong? Is someone bothering you?" Andrew, always attentive, noticed that something was weighing on my mind. I shook my head, not wanting Colin to ruin the mood while we were on our way to try on wedding dresses. "It's nothing serious. I'll tell you all about it later when we get home." Inside the bridal shop, as I looked at myself in the mirror wearing a wedding dress, I felt a bit dazed. Colin had once postponed our wedding, using work as an excuse. Back then, I thought I'd never get the chance to wear a wedding dress. But Andrew changed all that, filling the void and making me feel cherished. "You look beautiful," Andrew said, grinning goofily. "You should try on a suit too." After Andrew went in to change, I turned around and suddenly saw Colin standing ominously by the entrance. Startled, I quickly looked away. When I glanced back again, Colin was gone. That night, I told Andrew everything that had happened over the past few days. His face grew serious as he listened. "Zoe, let's get married tomorrow." Sensing Andrew's emotional reaction, I quickly tried to calm him. "Don't worry, I did have feelings for him before, But now he's nothing more than a stranger to me. I'll hand in my resignation tomorrow. Colin doesn't love me. He just can't accept that I no longer care for him. He's always been arrogant. Andrew, you're amazing. So don't be afraid I'll stop loving you. I hugged Andrew tightly, hoping to reassure him. Chapter 7. The next day. I took the day off and went with Andrew to get our marriage certificate. This time, standing beside me wasn't Colin, the one who had left me to be with someone else, but Andrew, the one who truly cherished me. Andrew held our marriage certificate and even posted a public announcement on his social media for everyone to see. All the wounds I had suffered in the past were being healed, one by one, by him. When I got back to work, I handed out wedding candies to my colleagues and submitted my resignation letter to the manager. Zoe, are you leaving to settle down? The manager's probing question made me a little uncomfortable. Yes, my husband loves me very much, so I want to take a break from work and focus on preparing for the wedding. I couldn't reveal the real reason for quitting, so I had to make something up. The manager's expression was complicated. He didn't acknowledge my words but simply told me to go see Colin. Realizing this was all Colin's doing, I grabbed my resignation letter and stormed into his office. Manager, I couldn't stop her, the assistant said cautiously, watching Colin carefully, afraid he'd lose his temper again. Get out! Colin flipped the papers on his desk to the floor in a fit of rage. After the assistant left, Colin pointed to the wedding candy on the floor, glaring at me with fury in his eyes. Did you go get your marriage certificate yesterday? That's right. Would you like some wedding candy to bring you good luck? Mr. Colin? I still have a few more in my bag. I responded boldly. This was as good as twisting the knife in the wound. Zoe, you're despicable. Colin suddenly grabbed me by the neck, flying into an inexplicable rage. Seeing Colin on the verge of losing control, I had no time to think. I kicked him in the groin as hard as I could. Colin collapsed to the floor in pain. I threw the resignation letter on top of him and walked back to the office to pack my things. As I stood at the company entrance, looking back at the place I had worked for the past 3 years, I felt a twinge of reluctance in my heart. Chapter 8. I wasn't sure if Colin had been injured or not, but according to my former colleagues, he left the company the next day. Life gradually returned to normal, and I became busy planning the wedding. Soon, Colin was completely out of my mind. Because of Clara's previous meddling, Andrew often faced challenges at work, but even when things didn't go well, he never wanted me to worry. Andrew, why don't you open your own dessert shop? I said, offering him the money I had saved over the past 2 years. If I use this money to open the shop, you won't be able to design the house you want. Didn't you always dream of having a beautiful balcony? Andrew gently ruffled my hair, his smile filled with a trace of helplessness. I couldn't resist poking his dimple. We can wait a bit on the house renovation. You're so talented. I'm sure you'll make the money back quickly. Zoe. Thank you. We exchanged a warm smile. After securing the shop, Andrew became incredibly busy with work. He had always taken care of me, but now that I had resigned and was at home, I began learning to cook. Although my food didn't taste great, Andrew still seemed to enjoy every bite. Our life together was simple, but this was exactly the kind of peaceful, everyday life I had always craved. The wedding preparations went smoothly, and before I knew it, the big day had arrived. I thought everything would go according to plan, but I never expected Colin to play dirty tricks. Chapter 9. He used his financial power to cause chaos at the wedding, then attacked Andrew and, in the confusion, drugged me. When I woke up, I found myself locked in a small villa. I woke up, parched and dehydrated. Opening my eyes, I looked around the dimly lit room, feeling a chill run down my spine. I held my head and got out of bed, intending to leave, but the sound of footsteps nearby startled me. The memories before I lost consciousness rushed back, and seeing Colin approaching me step by step, I grabbed the lamp from the bedside table and threw it at him. Colin, you're a maniac. Zoe, I'm sorry. Colin dodged the lamp and suddenly apologized, his voice soft and tender, sending shivers down my spine. The Colin I once knew was awful, but never this twisted. For the first time, I couldn't figure him out. Colin, let me go, or I'll call the police. I stared at him, trying to appear calm. Even though the room was dim, Colin's intense gaze was suffocating. He remained unmoved by my threat. After what felt like forever, he let out a low, eerie laugh. Zoe, I've already taken your phone. I'm curious. How exactly do you plan to call the police? Something was seriously wrong with him. I forced myself to stay calm and tried reasoning with him. Colin, let's part on good terms. I don't love you anymore. What you're doing, kidnapping and illegal detention, it's a crime. Why do this? It's okay. You loved me once, and you can love me again now. He pulled open the curtains, turned back to me, and smiled brightly. The sunlight poured into the room as Colin looked me up and down, nodding in satisfaction. You look beautiful in a wedding dress, Zoe. Looking at the increasingly erratic Colin, I felt a chill run down my spine. I don't love you. I love Andrew. No matter how well you treat me, nothing can change that. As soon as I said this, Colin's face darkened, and he lunged forward, grabbing me by the neck. He couldn't bear to hear those words. Zoe, I suggest you stop saying things like that, or I won't hesitate to drag both of us to hell. And then Andrew, that man, won't be in our way anymore. Fearing he might strangle me, he quickly loosened his grip and then, almost groveling, apologized softly. Zoe, I'm sorry. I didn't mean it. Colin was clearly unhinged, and I was terrified. Instinctively retreating. Get away from me, I rasped, my voice barely audible. After Colin left, I collapsed to the floor, my mind racing with worry about my parents and Andrew. To prevent me from escaping, Colin hired a caretaker to watch over me. He knew I resisted him, but he didn't force himself on me. Instead, he insisted on having meals together every day, acting like a complete madman. I don't want to eat, I muttered, tossing the spoon aside and standing up to go upstairs. Zoe, don't you want to hear the truth from 3 years ago? Chapter 10. I raised an eyebrow but didn't return to my room. 3 years ago. That post on my moments was just the result of a bet I lost. I blocked you from seeing it because I didn't want you to find out. I never imagined Lisa would show it to you, Colin said, his eyes filled with regret. And as for the photo, it was because she accidentally spilled something on her clothes. I just grabbed one of your shirts for her to change into. Nothing more. And then? I admit, I liked Lisa before, but after we got married, I didn't have feelings for her anymore. Once I realized she was behind those things, I cut ties with her completely. We haven't spoken since. Colin finished speaking and looked at me with sincerity, as if afraid I wouldn't believe him. But he never understood that those 2 incidents were just the triggers. What truly disappointed me was his repeated indifference. The year you broke up with Lisa, you confessed to me out of spite, and we became a couple. Now, all those ridiculous memories no longer meant anything to me. I loved you, so I gave everything I had, without holding back. But you were always distant. The keychain Lisa gave you was something you cherished, and when I accidentally touched it, you acted like I had tainted it. Colin opened his mouth to refute, but I stopped him and continued. The day Lisa returned to the country, you left me waiting just to pick her up. And on my birthday, just because she said she felt unwell, you rushed to her side and left me standing alone on the street. You'll never know how cold that winter was. I'm sorry, Colin. I'm not a fool. I could clearly feel that you never really cared about me. Now you say you love me? Don't you think it's too late and too shameless? I only love Andrew now. To me, you're just someone who passed through my life. Stop, Zoe. Please stop. Colin's eyes filled with tears. Unable to listen any longer, he hurried out. Chapter 11. After saying all that, Colin disappeared for several days. In an effort to gain some freedom, I started getting close to the housekeeper. Auntie, I just want to let my parents know I'm safe, I said, putting on some makeup to make myself look as miserable as possible. Auntie, you're a mother too. If you were in this situation, wouldn't you be worried? Sensing her growing sympathy, I repeatedly reassured her. I swear, Auntie, I won't make things difficult for you. Just let me borrow your phone to check in with my parents. Go ahead and make the call. The housekeeper was wary and didn't want to leave. I put on my most pleasant expression. Could you please turn around, Auntie? I feel uncomfortable making calls while being watched. Once I got the phone, I waited for a moment when the housekeeper wasn't paying attention and knocked her out with an object nearby. It was the first time I had ever done something like that, and my hands were trembling with sweat. After calling the police, I rushed outside, only to find that there were security measures in place everywhere, making it impossible for me to escape. I dialed Andrew's number when I heard his voice on the other end. I whispered, "Andrew, it's me, Zoe. Where are you?" Hearing Andrew's voice after 2 weeks finally calmed my anxious heart. Just as I gave him the address of the villa, I felt a hand grab my arm. Turning around, I saw Colin, furious. He snatched the phone from my hand and threw it far into the distance, where it quickly disappeared from sight. "Colin, you're insane." I shoved him away and ran to find the phone. He grabbed my arm, holding me in place. "Zoe, you're so cruel." Right back at you. Since I had been caught, there was no need to be polite anymore. "Well, since you put it that way, I suppose I'll have to do something about it." Colin forced my head down and tried to kiss me. "Get away from me. If you touch me, I will never forgive you. Not even in death." The resolve in my voice made Colin freeze. He clutched his head in agony, as if haunted by a painful memory, afraid he might lose control. I tried to leave, but he grabbed my wrist. "Don't think for a second that Andrew is going to come save you." He tied me up and threw me into the car, driving away from the villa. "Colin, you've already committed a crime. Stop the car now." Looking at the deranged man before me, my fear hit its peak. "This time, you're mine," Colin said, his tone filled with despair and darkness. Seeing how reckless he had become, my fear only deepened. Chapter 12. Colin took me to a small cabin in the middle of nowhere. At that moment, he was especially dangerous, and I hid in a corner, trying my best not to provoke him. As night fell, Colin tossed me a piece of bread. Seeing that I hadn't touched it, he snapped, "Relax. I'm not going to drug the bread." I stared at the candle flickering nearby and, on the verge of breaking down, pleaded, "Colin, I'm begging you, let me go." He didn't respond, and the room fell into silence. Just as I was drifting off to sleep, I heard him muttering softly, "If I let you go, who will let me go?" He came over to me, touching my face gently. Seeing that I didn't react, he began quietly revealing his so-called secrets. "I've been restraining myself so much, but why do you always choose Andrew? Is he really that much better than me? Every time I wake up, you've already left me behind. I don't understand why fate keeps making me start over but never gives me a real chance." He crouched down and kissed my hand, fearing I'd be discovered. I suppressed my disgust and let him hold me as we slept through the night. When I woke up the next morning, Colin was nowhere to be seen. I hurried outside to check the surroundings, realizing we were in the middle of nowhere with no villages or towns nearby. I squatted down in frustration, cursing Colin in my heart 100 times over. Soon enough, Colin returned. The moment he saw me, he pulled me tightly into his arms, pleading, "Zoe, can't you have a little pity for me?" I remained silent. By now, Colin had become so obsessive and deranged that it didn't matter whether I said anything or not. "I truly love you. I've tried to give you up before, but those memories are just too deep. I can't forget them no matter what. Zoe, can't you just look at me?" "No," I coldly refused. Hearing my response, Colin let go of me. I pointed to my chest and said seriously, "This heart is too small. It can't hold two people. I only love Andrew now. Maybe you do love me now, but we've already missed our chance. A love that was never meant to be isn't worth you breaking the law for." After saying that, I walked away, leaving Colin to think for himself. Chapter 13. Even though I had made myself clear, Colin still refused to let go. He kept me trapped here, living each day in some delusional fantasy. Crossing my arms, I tried once again to reason with him. "The outside world must be in chaos by now. Aren't you worried that the Lin family will get dragged into this?" "For you, I don't care about any of that," Colin said, gazing at me with deep affection. I felt so uncomfortable that I could only lower my head and remain silent. "Zoe, you remind me of how you were in school. You had a bit of baby fat back then, And every time I saw you, I wanted to pinch your cheeks. Colin started reminiscing about the past. When we were dating, I didn't really focus on you. Maybe it was because of my arrogance or because of Lisa, but I was pretty awful. I looked around, pretending not to hear him. Compared to Lisa, the Zoe from back then really was ordinary, so ordinary that you wouldn't notice her in a crowd. No wonder Colin hadn't cared much about me at the time. Zoe, can I tell you a secret? Before I could respond, he blurted out, I've actually lived through this life once already. This is my second time. At first, I didn't pay much attention to him, but when I realized what he was saying, it felt absurd. You've got to be kidding me. What kind of nonsense are you spouting in the middle of the night? That's really creepy. I crossed my arms tighter, nervously scanning the room. Zoe, I'm not making this up. He stared into the distance, a brief flicker of sadness in his eyes. In the original timeline, because I didn't understand my feelings in time, I had to watch you and Andrew live happily with children and grandchildren, while I ended up dying alone. I hesitated, afraid that asking the wrong question might push him over the edge. You had a son and a daughter. You were so happy, he said, as if reading my thoughts. I cleared my throat, trying to draw more out of him. And what about the first time you were reborn? The first time. Colin closed his eyes, as if the memory was too painful to relive. Zoe, I'm a bit tired. I'll tell you about the first time another day. With that, he turned away and fell asleep, ignoring me. Chapter 14. Although I was curious if Colin had made up his mind not to talk, there was nothing I could do about it. That night, Colin was unusually quiet. I was woken up by the sound of police sirens. When I opened my eyes and saw Andrew, the person I had been longing to see day and night, I smiled and threw myself into his arms. Andrew, I missed you so much. I'm here to take you home. Andrew knelt down and helped me put on my shoes. Sitting on the edge of the bed, I asked in confusion, How did you find me? Andrew stiffened for a moment before answering. Colin turned himself in. That's how we were able to find this place. Andrew stared at me. He's already been taken to the police car. He didn't want you to see him in such a miserable state. But he asked me to give you this letter. He said it has the answers you're looking for. I took the letter from Andrew's hand and let him hold mine as we left. In the car, Andrew turned to look out the window while I opened the letter. As I read about Colin's first rebirth, I finally understood why he had been so reluctant to talk about it. Both of Colin's rebirths happened after we got divorced. In his first rebirth, driven by resentment, Colin used forceful and manipulative tactics. He set Andrew up and forced him out of my life. Then, he threatened my parents to make me stay with him. But on the day of our wedding, news came that Andrew had died. And in that world, I came to hate Colin completely. Later, my parents passed away one after the other, and I followed Andrew in death. Colin was left to live a life full of regret. In his second rebirth, Colin initially intended to compete with Andrew fairly, but the memories from his first life had affected him deeply. He became increasingly volatile, prideful yet insecure, controlled yet prone to rage, constantly swinging between extremes. In the final part of the letter, Colin wrote that this was his punishment from the heavens. God gave him countless chances to start over, only to make him experience the pain of loss again and again. Chapter 15. Colin was sentenced to 6 years for kidnapping. Clara tried to help him, but Colin refused, and I heard he also turned down all visitors. When I returned, I told Andrew everything, except for the part about Colin's rebirth. That part was just too unbelievable. I couldn't agree with what Colin had done, but I couldn't deny that everything started because of me. All I could hope for was that Colin would live a better life after his release. To make it up to me, Andrew held another wedding. This time, there was no Colin. No unwanted guests. It was just me and Andrew, finally stepping into the life we had dreamed of. Thanks to Andrew's talents, the dessert shop was doing very well. After resting for a month, I started applying for jobs again. In the spring of our second year of marriage, I unexpectedly got pregnant. Around the time of the Lunar New Year that same year, a chubby little girl was born. Time passed quickly, and soon it was Colin's release day. That day, Clara, whom I hadn't seen in years, suddenly showed up. She looked haggard, a far cry from her once proud and imposing demeanor. Zoe, Colin doesn't want to come out. Could you help me talk to him? I watched my energetic daughter and didn't agree. If he doesn't want to leave, no one can change his mind. If 6 years weren't enough for him to let go, he might as well stay there. My words were harsh, but if Colin hadn't moved on, he was still a threat to me. I held my daughter's hand, ready to leave, but the little girl, for some reason, took an interest in Clara and offered her a piece of candy. How sweet. If we hadn't schemed against you and Colin back then. This child. Clara trailed off when she saw my expression change, quickly stopping herself. No wonder Colin resented her. Everyone had thought Lisa was the mastermind, but it turned out Clara had been involved too. Lady, I can't do anything about your brother. I have my own family now, and I don't want you or anyone else to disrupt our lives. Chapter 16. A month later, Colin was released from prison. He came all the way to find me, insisting that we talk. In the park, I looked at Colin with his close-cropped hair, feeling as if a lifetime had passed. Do you have any plans? I waved to my daughter playing in the distance. Colin didn't answer. He just stared at my child, saying, "She looks a lot like you. She's very cute." I smiled, watching Andrew and our daughter playing in the distance. She only looks like me on the outside. Her personality is exactly like Andrew's. Colin tore his gaze away from the child and said, "During my time in prison, I felt at peace, but now that I'm out and seeing you again, that old feeling of resentment is coming back." His sharp eyes locked onto me. I was startled and instinctively stepped back. "Zoe, do you think I still have a chance to start over?" Colin asked calmly. Although Colin wasn't as unhinged as before, I could see he hadn't fully moved on, fearing he might spiral again and cause harm. I tried to reason with him. "You need to let go. The only reason you're still so troubled is that you're holding on to this obsession too tightly. You say it's the gods punishing you, but maybe it's really you punishing yourself. Only by letting go can you start your own life. Clinging to the past. Aren't you also punishing me?" "Colin, this self-righteous love of yours has only caused me distress." Colin seemed to ponder my words. "Zoe, I'm sorry." After saying that, he left quietly. I watched him walk away, feeling a mix of emotions. Andrew came up beside me, his gaze following Colin's retreating figure. He frowned. "What did you say to him?" "Nothing. Just some casual conversation." Seeing Andrew's worried expression, I quickly asked, "What's wrong?" Andrew shook his head. "I don't know. I just feel like he's lost all will to live. But maybe I'm overthinking it." I thought Andrew was just saying it in passing, but I never expected his words to come true. The next day, just as I was about to go to work, Clara called, saying Colin was gone. At first, I didn't understand, until she mentioned the letter. He took a large amount of sleeping pills. By the time we found him, it was too late. Clara sobbed as she explained how Colin had died. I opened my mouth, but no words came out. "Zoe, in his letter, Colin wrote that he was starting a new life. Do you know what that means? Maybe this was the best ending for him. There would be no third rebirth. Colin had finally found his way out, and I no longer had to endure any more of this tragedy." Extra chapter. After Colin and Zoe divorced, he began dating Lisa. Lisa thought Colin was still the same devoted simp who would indulge her every whim and constantly made unreasonable demands. At first, Colin would tolerate her, but after a while, he grew impatient. Things came to a head when Lisa decided to throw away all of Zoe's belongings without asking, which prompted Colin to slap her. "Colin, I am your girlfriend now. You and Zoe are in the past. How could you hit me because of her?" Lisa, feeling wronged, started to make a scene. "I've told you before, no one touches her things," Colin replied, putting a cigarette to his lips. But then, as if something crossed his mind, he stopped himself from lighting it. Stung by his words, Lisa stormed into Colin's room, grabbed a pile of Zoe's belongings, and started tossing them into the trash. "Zoe's married now. Who are you trying to upset by doing this? The way you're acting, she'd just find it pathetic." "Lisa," Colin's voice was stern, a clear warning. He pulled Zoe's things out of the trash bin, not caring if they were dirty, and wiped them off with his hands as if they were treasures. Seeing that Colin's eyes were filled with thoughts of someone else, Lisa pressed him relentlessly, demanding an explanation. Are you regretting it? Regretting divorcing Zoe? Regretting dating me? Yes, I regret it. At that moment, Colin finally realized who he truly cared about. It was Zoe. It was the Zoe who knitted scarves for him, the Zoe who waited outside his dorm like a fool, the Zoe who scolded him for smoking too much. But he had already lost her. A cat's meow broke the silence, and Colin, with a bitter smile, picked up Daisy, cradling her in his arms. He told Lisa to pack her things and leave. Colin, do you know why Zoe divorced you? Lisa, by now completely unhinged, screamed, because it was all your sister's doing. She never liked Zoe and orchestrated all those so-called coincidences. Your beloved sister drove away the person you cared about, and you never even realized it. In the end, you were the biggest fool. Colin turned pale at her words. He kicked Lisa out and immediately booked a flight to the city where Zoe lived. Colin waited outside for hours until he finally saw Zoe, arm in arm with Andrew, laughing and talking. They didn't notice Colin standing in the distance. At that moment, Colin finally understood Zoe truly no longer had feelings for him. He had taken the wrong path, and by the time he found his way back, everything had already changed. Colin left this world with his heart full of obsession. When he woke up again, it was the moment right after his divorce from Zoe. He thought that his unwavering love had moved the gods and given him another chance at life. But what he didn't realize was that this was just the beginning of a new tragedy.